Hello, my favorite English language learners. It is your favorite English teacher here, Amy Joy, and in today's video, I am going to share with you 20 words to talk about social issues in the United States. And actually, all of the words today are collocations. A collocation is just two words that frequently go together. So for example, we say things like make your bed, not do your bed, or to depend on your friends, not to depend of your friends. So all of the words today are going to be collocations. And also, I just want to say that many of the words I teach you today are very controversial and debatable, and I am not an expert in social justice topics, but I do think it's important that you become familiar with these words so that you can talk about social issues and understand when people talk about social issues a little bit better. So if you have any corrections or you want to contribute something to this conversation, then let me know in the comments below and we can teach each other. So with that being said, let's get started. Okay, our first collocation is to discriminate against someone. This means to treat someone differently, maybe based on the group they belong to, maybe their race or their religion or their sexual orientation. And we always use the preposition against. I often see my students say to discriminate on someone, to discriminate of someone, to discriminate to someone, and none of those are correct. We always say to discriminate against someone. So, for example, laws that ban gay marriage discriminate against homosexuals. Now, to discriminate against someone is the verb form, but the noun form, discrimination, can be followed by of or against. For example, the discrimination of homosexuals led many activists to protest. Or the discrimination against homosexuals led many activists to protest. And number 2, person or people of color. People of color are just people who are not white. So this can include Black people, people from Latinx backgrounds, or indigenous people, or Asians, or just anyone who's not white. So to use this in a sentence, we might say, historically, people of color have been discriminated against in the US. Moving on to number 3, social justice. Social justice refers to fairness in society, or making sure that everyone in society has equal opportunities no matter what group they belong to or who they are. So just making sure that everyone is equal. And topics in social justice usually address how people from marginalized communities or minority groups have been mistreated in the past or discriminated against, and how we can improve this, how we can fix that discrimination. So we often see phrases like social justice activists or social justice issues. And in a sentence, we would see social justice activists are fighting against discriminatory voting laws. Or some issues in social justice might include discrimination in housing or education. And number 4, a social construct. A social construct is a noun, and this is something that exists because all humans agree it exists. This is a very abstract word, but you will hear it a lot in college. I heard this word all the time, but some examples include money. We all agree that money has value, but we kind of invented that. Money doesn't have a value, we just all give it a value. So that is a social construct. Some people consider gender a social construct because we have decided that boys and girls should behave in certain ways. Other societies don't necessarily have that distinction. Fashion is a social construct. We all determine what is fashionable and what is not. Some people say race is a social construct and that the differences between races were made up by us. Basically, anything that societies created or give a value to is a social construct. Number 5 is socioeconomic status, kind of a combination between your social status and your economic status. And this is basically your place or your level or your status or your class in society based on how much money you make. 3 factors that affect your SES include your education level and your job and how much income or money you make. Clearly, all 3 of those work together, and those determine your SES. Number 6, social or societal norms. These are behaviors or beliefs that are considered acceptable or normal in society. Some kind of neutral examples include maybe how you greet someone, maybe by shaking hands or kissing on the cheek, maybe how much eye contact is appropriate. But when talking about social justice, there are some societal norms that might be kind of harmful. For example, how you are supposed to behave based on your gender. Maybe the idea that men are supposed to keep their emotions inside, or that girls are supposed to stay home and cook or clean. So not all social norms or societal norms are harmful, but some, maybe based on gender or race or class, can be harmful and therefore are discussed in social justice topics. Okay, and number 7, this is a big one and it is very controversial in the US, but I do think you should know about it and what it means. And that is institutional racism or systemic racism. And this means racism that is embedded or found in our laws that creates inequality in housing, policing, representation, or education, and many other areas of society. Some examples of systemic racism include redlining, which very simply put, prevented Black people from owning homes and also devalued their properties, so they were unable to become homeowners and develop intergenerational wealth. So another more current example of systemic racism are some new laws that people are trying to put in place that would prevent people of color from voting. Now, this is a very debatable topic, and I personally don't have all of the details, but social justice activists are fighting against these laws because they might prevent people of color from voting. Okay, and number 8, another hot word, another very controversial and debated word. The word is privilege. Privilege just means opportunities or positive treatment for belonging to a dominant group. Dominant groups in the US include white people, males, Christians, straight people. You also have native English speaker privilege, and the list goes on. There are many different kinds of privilege. You might have some and not others, but that is what the word privilege means. So belonging to the dominant group kind of gives you this privilege or opportunity or positive treatment, or it allows you to avoid discrimination because no one's discriminating against you. Some people argue that privilege does not exist and that you just need to work hard to kind of get where you want to be. But from my perspective, if discrimination exists and you do not belong to a group that is discriminated against, then that is a privilege. And again, it's a very hot and debated word, so just be aware that some people accept it and some people don't. And number 9, we've got the collocation pay gap or the gender pay gap, and that is just the difference in pay between men and women. Number 10, we have gender roles. Gender roles are behaviors and expectations based on your gender. For example, women like clothes and makeup and are expected to cook and clean in the house, while men are expected to like trucks and guns and fighting, and they should be working outside of the home. So those are traditional gender roles, just basically behaviors that we perform based on expectations created by society. And again, we can say that gender roles are social constructs. We have all decided that men and women should behave this way, but there's really no reason as to why. And number 11, gender identity. Your gender identity is the gender that you feel like. So I personally was born with the sex of a female, and I also feel like a girl. However, sometimes this doesn't always match. You might be born with the sex of a female and feel more like a man. And this is what makes someone transgender. At least this is how I have heard it explained to me. So if anyone would like to correct me, I am more than happy to hear from you in the comments. Okay, and moving on to some less controversial vocabulary, the next 4 collocations all have the word equal in them. So number 12 is equal rights. Now this is pretty self-explanatory, but it is a collocation, and it just means that everyone is treated equally in society. So in a sentence, we can say, activists during the civil rights movement were fighting for equal rights between blacks and whites. Most people in the US believe in equal rights, or that everyone should be treated equally. Number 13, we can say racial equality or gender equality. These just mean that everyone is treated equally no matter what gender or race they are. So currently, Black Lives Matter protesters are fighting for racial equality in policing. And women are fighting for gender equality in pay. Number 14, another really good collocation, to treat someone equally. And we often see this used in the passive voice, to be treated equally. So to put this in a sentence, we can say, activists during the civil rights movement were fighting to be treated equally. And number 15, promote equality. Again, this is just a collocation that you should be aware of. You can promote equality. So social justice activists promote equality between all people regardless of gender, sex, class, or religion. Again, promote equality. And number 16, another really great collocation, to advocate for someone or something. So to advocate for something means to support it. So recently there was a law in Texas that has been preventing women from getting abortions, and many people protested to advocate for abortion. They advocated for abortion. Now, to advocate for something is the verb form, but in the noun form, you can be an advocate for something or for someone. So all of those people that came out to protest are advocates for abortion. Now, a common little mistake I see my students make is to use the word advocator. And as much as I love this inventive new word, we do not say advocator, we say advocate to refer to a person who supports something. Ugh, why does English have to be so hard? Okay, and our last 4 collocations are all going to have the adjective widespread. Widespread means distributed over a large region or group of people. You can just think about it as a lot of people. So our first one is widespread support. This is an adjective plus a noun. So for example, in the US, there is widespread support for women to have the same opportunities as men. There is widespread support. And similarly, number 18 is widespread acceptance. This just means that many people accept something. So for example, nowadays there is widespread acceptance of blended families or families that consist of step-parents and stepchildren. These types of families used to be taboo, but now there is widespread acceptance. And number 19, widespread belief. This just means that many people believe something. For example, there is widespread belief that the COVID vaccine is effective. Many people believe that the vaccine is effective. There is widespread belief. And lastly, number 20, to become widespread. Notice that the last 3 collocations were adjectives plus nouns, and that this is become plus adjective. And here our example says, only recently has support for gay marriage become widespread. Or another example, cohabitation or the act of living together before you're married has become widespread. All right, well there you have it. 20 words to talk about social issues in the United States. I hope I was able to clarify some of this terminology for you. If you found this video helpful, make sure you like it, subscribe to my channel, and click that notification bell so that YouTube will notify you whenever I post a new video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something new, and I will see you next time. Bye!